Good evening. Glad that you are watching us on the county's television on the news tonight. Hundreds of thousands of HIV victims in distress. This as Septrin shortage continues to bite with the crisis attributed to COVID-19. Also tonight, Deputy President William Ruto takes DCI boss George Kinoti head on, accusing the top detective of propagating divisions in the name of searching for justice. Plus, who are they and why did they invade the school with impunity? Kapsoi Primary School management in limbo as tens of people inhabit school houses with protection from county education officers. And Kenya still spoilt of choice on which COVID-19 vaccine to pick from a pool of 3 jabs, even as AstraZeneca comes out as a favorite, with 400 Kenyans already trying it in Kilifi. Tonight of all nights, Anne Wairimu is our sign language interpreter. TV47 News Tonight with me, Abubakar Abdullahi, begins right now. The Ministry of Health has constituted a special committee that will give advisory on what COVID-19 vaccine the country should embrace as the race to come up with a viable vaccine reaches home stretch. The Ministry of Health is considering Oxford University's AstraZeneca, whose trials are being conducted in the country. Mwangi Maina begins our broadcast tonight.
As the world seeks a cure for COVID-19 effortlessly, the Ministry of Health has announced that the country might settle for AstraZeneca vaccine manufactured by England-based Oxford University in a pool of 3 vaccines, among them Moderna and Pfizer biotech vaccine. AstraZeneca is still undergoing trials and has posted an impressive over 70% success rate.
There is one vaccine which we are involved in here that is among the 3 vaccines that are now in the forefront in this race: the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine, the Moderna vaccine, and this Chadok vaccine.
The vaccine that will work best for us is the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine. But we are not closed to that particular space only. We are in discussions with other countries, including China.
Vaccine trials in the country are currently being conducted, with 2 volunteers having received the vaccine among 40 people who volunteered for the trials. The Ministry of Health says around 400 volunteers will be needed as the trials gain momentum.
Looking at the possibility of being able to get any of these vaccines once they become available and tested, the interim results do indicate the level of safety and effectiveness of these.
Director General in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Patrick Amold, says vulnerable groups including health workers and people with underlying conditions will be prioritized in the event the vaccine is approved.
News that has come out in the last 4 weeks or so on progress with vaccines is very, very encouraging and gives us hope that a vaccine will be available very soon. And hopefully, as a country, we will also be able to get these vaccines so that we can provide it as a priority to our vulnerable groups of people, including healthcare workers and those who are old and have underlying conditions.
The ministry says among the parameters to be considered in arriving at the vaccine to be procured include the vaccine safety, its effectiveness and efficacy, as well as the ability of the vaccine to trigger immune response against coronavirus.
Remember, for this COVID-19, then everybody becomes a candidate who will require the vaccine. So to that extent, we have formed a steering committee to be able to guide us in terms of which vaccine are we going to use. On
Tuesday, the country recorded 551 new COVID-19 infections, bringing the total number of confirmed COVID-19 cases to 84,169. 266 patients have recovered, bringing the total number of recoveries to 18,146. At the same time, 5 patients succumbed to the virus, bringing the national COVID-19 death toll to 1,474. As the world races to find a vaccine for COVID-19, the Ministry of Health says that Kenya has not been left behind. Researchers from the Kenya Medical Research Institute are in consultations with researchers from different countries to ensure that once a vaccine is found, Kenyans get vaccinated too. Mwangi Maina, TV47, Nairobi.
Well, still on matters health, the infection of HIV among young people in the country is on the rise. This is according to the National AIDS Council, which says over 20,000 people have been infected this year. Meanwhile, on this day that the world marked World AIDS Day, a number of people living with HIV are complaining that they are no longer accessing Septrin, which they claim is a very important drug in their therapy. Sharon Baranga reports.
16-year-old Micah, not his real name, is a Form 3 student. He aspires to be a doctor once he completes his studies. Micah was diagnosed with HIV when he was 6 years old.
Time ndio issue sana kabisa, unapata saa zingine nimetoka shule late. Hata mata sasa sometimes mjua pale ni siku modern extend venye nataka. Unapata hiyo time inafaa kuwa kama ni saa moja. Saa zingine umetoka shule late na meza saa 1:30. Saa zingine imeza even earlier.
Micah wears many hats. He is also a youth champion who creates awareness on HIV among his peers.
Na meet wase tunafanana, then tunafundishwa 2-3 about kujikeep healthy na stuff kama hizo na kujikubali. So unapata unajikubali tu wewe mwenyewe venye tu uko.
According to the National AIDS Control Council, children of school-going age form the bulk of new HIV infections. This year, 21,404 have been infected. In total, 41,728 new HIV infections have been recorded this year.
I've been taking my medication for the last 19 years. Can you imagine? Miaka 19 unakunywa dawa, yani mwili yako ishakuwa chemist, unaona? Naona zoea, si ndio?
Nameza dawa vizuri, nafuata masharti ya madaktari. That's why I'm healthy and you cannot know.
According to the Global HIV Policy Report, Kenya recorded 42,000 new infections of HIV in 2019 alone, and only 74% of those infected are on ARVs.
But a number of people living with HIV have been complaining that they are no longer accessing Septrin, a drug they claim is very important in their therapy. Some say they have been forced to purchase the drug from chemists, where they can only get 1 tablet for 10 shillings.
Tangu COVID ianze mwezi wa 3, tumekuwa na changamoto ya Septrin. Ukienda hosi unaambiwa kuna Septrin, ukienda kwa chemistry unaambiwa utapatiwa Septrin moja tu. Na hiyo Septrin ndio inazuia magonjwa tegemezi kama homa, kichwa ikikuuma, na Septrin ndio inasaidia hata hiyo ARV.
In Kibra, a number of activities were lined up aimed at creating awareness to residents on the importance of knowing their status and free HIV testing and counseling. A number of people turned up for testing in 5 stations set up in the neighborhood.
It is 99.9% accuracy. Yeah. So it may be... So people say it's not accurate because maybe they don't know how to use it. Interpretation, how to use it, because sometimes others use saliva. They don't wipe where it is required. Yeah.
In Kajiado County, the Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Mercy Mwangangi, together with the Governor, Joseph Olelenku, joined residents in marking World AIDS Day, where they were urged to shun from stigmatizing people living with the virus.
We're still facing major challenges in providing medications to children living with HIV. By the end of 2019, we had an estimated 100,000 children below 14 years of age living with HIV, and only 72,000 were on treatment.
The day was commemorated in a number of counties such as Kakamega and Kwale. Sharon Baranga, TV47.
Moving on, and the BBI signatures collection exercise is still on, with the proponents of the report leading the exercise in their respective counties. The BBI steering committee has already collected more than 2 million signatures that will be presented to the Electoral Commission for verification. Mike Kagwongo has the details.
Political leaders in many parts of the country continue to lead the BBI signatures collection drive, an exercise that is scheduled to be completed this week. However, for many, Deputy President William Ruto's allies, the country should not be headed to a yes or no referendum, as pushed by the proponents of the BBI report.
And there is a room that the referendum we are conducting. The principle is that it should be inclusive, it should collect every idea, and every idea, all of you, all opinion should be taken into account. It should not be ignored. And that should be the basis of either forming one question or multiple questions as we go forward towards the vote. Like in Nyeri, there is the issue of the constituency. People are saying that the constituency have not been properly apportioned.
Water and Sanitation CS Cecily Kariuki was leading the signature collection in Nyandarua, calling on locals to support the report, which she believes will solve the two-third gender question.
Tuko na seneta mmoja akiwa ni baba, tuwe na seneta mwingine akiwa ni mama. Na hiyo nafikiri ukiangalia from a gender point, uangalia mama pande hii na baba pande hii, ina rahisi. Itakuwa rahisi kufanya oversight both in the county but also in the ward.
Na sisi tunasema hata kama watu ya Central Kenya, kama sio kiti ya number 1, number 2 basi itakuwa ni yetu, kulingana na vile tutaungana na wale ambao tutaungana tukitafuta power wakati itafika 2022. Hiyo haina haya, lazima ukumbwa upiganiwe, na lazima watu wajiandae na kura zao ambao wako nazo, lazima watu watatenga coalition zao. Hakuna kabila hata moja ambayo itaweza kushika kiti ya rais.
Baringo Senator Gideon Moi, who was spearheading the exercise in Baringo, said it's now upon the electoral body IEBC to verify the signatures after more than 2 million signatures were collected by Tuesday.
Leo ndio kusign kufungua mlango kwa IEBC kusema sasa mambo yako salama. Tumefika, walitaka 1 million vote signatures, tumefika sasa 3 million na kuendelea. Ndio sasa kufungua mlango to the next stage.
Na campaign sasa ya referendum, ili ikifika wakati huo mwezi wa 4 mwezi wa 5 tunapiga kura kupitisha marekebisho ya katiba.
In Gatondo South, Moses Kuria's brother John Gige is leading the BBI signature collection exercise, despite his brother and area MP Moses Kuria not supporting the report.
It's all about peace. Kwa hivyo vile ningehakikishia watu tuendelee kuweka sahihi. Tukifika pale kwa yes or no, tutakuwa tumesoma, kila mtu atajiamulia.
Taita Taveta Governor Granton Samboja led the exercise in his county, saying he is optimistic that the report will sail through.
Na itapita. Imetuhakikishia hakuna eneo bunge hata moja litapotea. Si wataita tupige makofi na wataveta. So I am protecting the constituencies za Taita Taveta by putting my signature.
In Busia County, Devolution CS Eugene Wamalwa called on members of the county assemblies to be ready to support the bill as governors prepare for public participation process.
For MCS, mpira unakuja kwenu. Just the way the governors have led the way, please also lead the way. Take over na tuhakikishe ya kwamba tumepitisha mambo haya.
The exercise is scheduled to be completed later this week.
Thank you, Mike Kagwongo, for that report. You are watching TV47 News Tonight with me, Abubakar Abdullahi. Time for us to take a short break. We will be back with more news. Don't go too far.
Wajuao walisema kwamba jina jema hung'aa hata gizani. Na vilevile wakasema bora ni bora iliyoboreshwa, na habari za TV47 zinazidi kuimarika kila kuchapo.
Tunasanzuka na kutamba ili kuhakikisha tunaweka bayana taarifa kemkem zenye usawa na mantiki.
Katika mida ya alasiri kabla ya jua kutua, kutoka kaunti 001 na kupeperushia shina la upeo.
Na inapowadia saa 1 kamili,
nachukua usukani kukufahamisha
na kukupeperushia taarifa ipasavyo.
Tutakueleza ni kipi kilichojiri na wahusika ni wepi.
Ungana nasi kila siku ya wiki tukujuze, kwani usilolijua ni kama usiku wa giza.
If we had not gone into PPEs right now, we wouldn't be having this opportunity to tell the story of how equity helped the local sector. There's a lot more that we can do locally. Let's explore and let's see what we can do.
Equity, bega kwa bega.
Wajuao walisema kwamba jina jema hung'aa hata gizani.
Na vilevile wakasema bora ni bora iliyoboreshwa, na habari za TV47 zinazidi kuimarika kila kuchapo.
Tunasanzuka na kutamba ili kuhakikisha tunaweka bayana taarifa kemkem zenye usawa na mantiki.
Katika mida ya alasiri kabla ya jua kutua, kutoka kaunti 001 na kupeperushia shina la upeo.
Na inapowadia saa 1 kamili,
nachukua usukani kukufahamisha
na kukupeperushia taarifa ipasavyo.
Tutakueleza ni kipi kilichojiri na wahusika ni wepi.
Ungana nasi kila siku ya wiki tukujuze, kwani usilolijua ni kama usiku wa giza.
If we had not gone into PPEs right now, we wouldn't be having this opportunity to tell the story of how equity helped the local sector. There's a lot more that we can do locally. Let's explore and let's see what we can do.
Equity, bega kwa bega.
Wajuao walisema kwamba jina jema hung'aa hata gizani.
Na vilevile wakasema bora ni bora iliyoboreshwa, na habari za TV47 zinazidi kuimarika kila kuchapo.
Tunasanzuka na kutamba ili kuhakikisha tunaweka bayana taarifa kemkem zenye usawa na mantiki.
Katika mida ya alasiri kabla ya jua kutua, kutoka kaunti 001 na kupeperushia shina la upeo.
Na inapowadia saa 1 kamili,
nachukua usukani kukufahamisha.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Let's get to more stories now. And Deputy President William Ruto has attacked the Director of Criminal Investigations, George Kinoti, over his remark on plans to revive the 2007-2008 post-election files. Ruto was speaking in Nakuru County during the burial of Edith Wanjiku, mother to Bahati MP Kimani Ngunjiru. Ruto's allies, however, appeared lukewarm in the ongoing BBI debate. And as Lynette Gidwa now reports, the DP is set to meet his allies to make clear his stand on the debate.
Deputy President William Ruto, during a burial in Nakuru County, called out the alleged abuse of state officers being influenced politically. In an apparent attack on the Director of Criminal Investigations, George Kinoti, following his recent plans to review 2007-2008 post-election violent cases, Ruto expressed his concerns over the spirited efforts to scuttle political ambitions of other leaders to the extent of investigating violence through public offices.
And I want to say for the record, the abuse of criminal investigation and criminal prosecution targeting people because of their tribe or their political affiliation is the wrong thing to do. But it is worse if criminal investigation and criminal prosecutions are used to incite ethnic hate and tribalism in our nation. I want to ask public officers charged with the responsibility of doing the job of protecting our country not to use those offices for the wrong things.
He also expressed vehemence casting out those in the business of causing hate and division.
Hakuna mtu katika bonde la ufa ambaye atatishwa na mwenzake. Hakuna mtu katika bonde la ufa ambaye atatuletea tena siasa ya ukabila na chuki.
Let us continue to live in peace. Nothing else is more precious than peace. And so we must jealously guard our peace. Ni sisi tunajua ile shida tutapata if we were to go that direction.
On his part, Nakuru Governor Lee Kinyanjui called on the residents to support the BBI Constitution amendments, singling out a section of the document as beneficial to the country. Kapsaret MP Oscar Sudi, however, regretted that the BBI was being used as a smokescreen by a section of political leaders to push their selfish agenda.
We will not be spectators when the BBI goes through. So even on our side, anybody who is thinking of a constellation of how those 5 or 6 can be, Nakuru must be part of that equation. And I want to urge you, Your Excellency, even as our sisters here and our brothers oppose, ninawaombea, when the time comes, remember Nakuru. This is how we want, so that the whole of Kenya, the whole of all communities feel they are part and parcel of this whole thing called BBI.
Gongana tena, hiyo mimi nataka niambia walivu, wajipange na washindwe kabisa. Kwa sababu sisi kama wananchi, hatuwezi sidi kila siku kupiganisha wananchi kwa sababu tunajitakia makuu. Hata hii maneno ya BBI, Your Excellency, mimi sina shida na BBI. Lakini swali yangu ni moja, tulifika haje kwa maneno ya katiba? Walituambia ati wanatafuta wazee wa kwenda kuchukua maoni na kukutanisha watu katika taifa la Kenya. Hii utapeli iko Kenya hii.
This comes ahead of the ongoing BBI signature solicitation in the country. Lynette Kidhua, TV47.
Elsewhere, matatu operators and urban planners have warned that the government's effort to decongest Nairobi by banning matatus from accessing the central business district could flop if the government does not set a smooth, facilitated transition of matatus out of the CBD into their new terminal outside the city. This as the Nairobi Metropolitan Services aborted plans to enforce the ban that was set to commence today. David Modhoka reports.
As the hours trickled down on Monday, November 30th, the looming ban on matatus from accessing the Nairobi CBD that was set to commence on Tuesday seemed a matter of when, not if. Residents caught unaware by the announcement feared the worst. But on waking up to Tuesday, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. It was yet another day of hustle and bustle for matatu operators at every possible space within the Nairobi CBD. Residents who have stayed longer in Nairobi will say that it is not a surprise that the Nairobi Metropolitan Services aborted plans to enforce the ban that will see the CBD off bounds for any matatu. In 2008, the first attempt to ban matatus from entering the CBD by the government was never actualized. 7 years later, the Nairobi County government, led by former Governor Evans Kidero, was at it again, but the plans bore no fruit. 3 years later, Governor Mike Sonko picked from where his predecessor had left to no avail. Just like his predecessors, Sonko could end up leaving office sooner than the matatus from the CBD.
Hizo ni plans wao wenyewe wanasema wako na engineers.
Sisi si engineer, tujasoma, ndio kwa maana tuko kwa hii industry. Lakini kama sisi tunaona hiyo shida mahali iko, wao hawaoni na wako kwa ofisi, mnataka kukandamiza ule mtu wako chini. Una expect wewe wako chini, sisi tutakubali tukandamizwe mpaka dakika ya mwisho?
The Mohamed Badi-led NMS has since vowed to hatch the perfect win-win plan, a plan that will save the choking city from the traffic menace while also providing new functioning terminal for matatus. According to Badi, the strategy is to construct a bus stop at the Luna Park where commuters from Mombasa, Langata and Ngong roads will be dropped. Those coming from Thika Road will be dropped off at Globe Cinema, while those coming from Wayaki Way will alight from Desai Road. Commuters from Eastlands will be dropped off at Muthurwa, while those coming from upcountry destinations will head for the Machakos Country Bus Station. However, urban planner Constant Cap has warned that Badi could just be another player in a game of musical chairs if NMS does not only oversee the construction of this new terminal but also equip the terminal with proper infrastructure.
Let's not only think about the passenger, let's also think about the worker. You know, the tout, the driver. Do you have facilities for them? Where they're going to be when they're not working? Do you have washroom facilities for them there? Is the place safe enough for them, for those who are waiting for passengers late at night? So there's a lot more that comes towards that, so as not to force people to come to the CBD. And then for passengers, do we have good access to those particular terminali?
Constant has also hinted that the phasing out of matatus could take too long for the NMS's liking.
How soon is very, I think it's dependent on the infrastructure. One of the things that we noted is that with previous regimes, we've had political declarations of matatus being out of the CBD, but it's been done without giving them supportive infrastructure. Okay, you just tell them. I mean, there's a Gazette notice that was done 2 years ago that allocated certain termini, and which were not enough.
And while NMS is hell-bent on leaving a lasting legacy, all eyes are set on whether Badi will finally crack the city decongestion nut that has been a twisted jargon for many leaders before him.
It is a city simply choking under traffic, and despite deliberate consensus to put this crisis to bed, the government has repeatedly been unable to do that. Stakeholders insist for the plan to work, it will need more than just political statements. It will require proper supporting infrastructure as well as public participation. David Mudhoka, TV47 at Koja, Nairobi.
Moving on, parents and teachers of Kapsoya Primary School in Eldoret Town are appealing to Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha and his health counterpart Mutai Kagwe to intervene in evicting people they have described as strangers occupying residential houses within the school compound. They say the strangers are posing a great risk to learners during the COVID-19 pandemic. Calvin Chitwa reports.
Images of broken windows that leave learners exposed to cold, giving you a clear picture of an institution that seems to have been forgotten. The uncontrolled movement of the alleged unknown occupants of the houses, meant for teachers, gives you another picture of a school struggling to put things in order.
Dirisha wamebomoa, milango zimeibiwa, madeski zinaenda. Hata tukijaribu kufuatilia tuone ni zinaenda njia gani, hatuwezi kuwapata.
Kweli tunao wageni, tuna watu ambao wanaishi katika nyumba za shule, lakini tatizo ni kuwa hakuna mtu yote aliye na habari jinsi watu hawa walivyoingia katika shule. Kwa hivyo kule kuja kwao hapa na kukaa kwao hapa, mimi kama mwalimu mkuu sina mamlaka yoyote kuadhibiti.
The school's management, led by the chairman of the board and the head teacher, say more than 80 people living within the school compound are strangers and external powerful forces have been protecting them.
Notice was given for 22nd that they need to actually to move from school to leave the learners and the teachers in a safe condition. Only to be surprised that on 25th a letter was received by the head teacher which from the public service restricting the evictions of the same persons.
The security guard at the school says the strangers never wash or sanitize their hands at the gate and always enter and leave the school compound at their own will.
Unaweza kuwa umefunga gate, mtu anakuja anafungua gate anaiacha wazi, hawezi funga. Na saa zingine hata ukimkutilia anakuambia hiyo ndio kazi yako.
She adds that her work has become more difficult manning the gate and ensuring that pupils don't move or interact with the strangers because of COVID-19 possible infections while in school.
Wenye wanaishi hapa huwa hawanawi, wakiingia huwa hawanawi. Na watoto wangu pia wanapenda kwenda kucheza karibu na manyumba zao.
It is really very sad when the safety of our pupils, of our learners and teachers are put at to a stake because of interests of only houses.
1 month ago, Education CS George Magoha, while touring one of the public schools in Uasin Gishu, publicly expressed his disappointment with the Director of Education because of the unacceptable conditions he found at the school. Calvin Chitwa, TV47, Uasin Gishu County.
Well, 30 minutes past the hour. You're watching TV47 News Tonight with me, Abu Bakar Abdullahi. Keep talking to us. The hashtag to use is TV47 News. Send us a message on 22047. Let me sample some of your feedback. Baba Ramadan says, watching from Moyale Sub-County, Marsabit County. Rev Harrison Kosgei says, watching from Lesos, Nandi County. Irene on Facebook says, watching. Eunice Adhiambo says, tuned. Keep talking to us. Time for us to take a short break. We'll be back after this break. Stay tuned.
Wajuao walisema kwamba jina jema hung'aa hata gizani.
Na vilevile wakasema bora ni bora iliyoboreshwa, na habari za TV47 zinazidi kuimarika kila kuchapo.
Tunasanzuka na kutamba ili kuhakikisha tunaweka bayana taarifa kemkem zenye usawa na mantiki.
Katika mida ya alasiri kabla ya jua kutua, kutoka kaunti 001 na kupeperushia shina la upeo.
Na inapowadia saa 1 kamili,
nachukua usukani kukufahamisha
na kukupeperushia taarifa ipasavyo.
Tutakueleza ni kipi kilichojiri na wahusika ni wepi.
Ungana nasi kila siku ya wiki tukujuze, kwani usilolijua ni kama usiku wa giza.
If we had not gone into PPEs right now, we wouldn't be having this opportunity to tell the story of how equity helped the local sector. There's a lot more that we can do locally. Let's explore and let's see what we can do.
Equity, bega kwa bega.
Wajuao walisema kwamba jina jema hung'aa hata gizani.
Na vilevile wakasema bora ni bora iliyoboreshwa, na habari za TV47 zinazidi kuimarika kila kuchapo.
Tunasanzuka na kutamba ili kuhakikisha tunaweka bayana taarifa kemkem zenye usawa na mantiki.
Katika mida ya alasiri kabla ya jua kutua, kutoka kaunti 001 na kupeperushia shina la upeo.
Na inapowadia saa 1 kamili,
nachukua usukani kukufahamisha
na kukupeperushia taarifa ipasavyo.
Tutakueleza ni kipi kilichojiri na wahusika ni wepi.
Ungana nasi kila siku ya wiki tukujuze, kwani usilolijua ni kama usiku wa giza.
If we had not gone into PPEs right now, we wouldn't be having this opportunity to tell the story of how equity helped the local sector. There's a lot more that we can do locally. Let's explore and let's see what we can do.
Equity, bega kwa bega.
Wajuao walisema kwamba jina jema hung'aa hata gizani.
Na vilevile wakasema bora ni bora iliyoboreshwa, na habari za TV47 zinazidi kuimarika kila kuchapo.
Tunasanzuka na kutamba ili kuhakikisha tunaweka bayana taarifa kemkem zenye usawa na mantiki.
Katika mida ya alasiri kabla ya jua kutua, kutoka kaunti 001 na kupeperushia shina la upeo.
Na inapowadia saa 1 kamili,
nachukua usukani kukufahamisha
na kukupeperushia taarifa ipasavyo.
Tutakueleza ni kipi kilichojiri na wahusika ni wepi.
Ungana nasi kila siku ya wiki tukujuze, kwani usilolijua ni kama usiku wa giza.
If we had not gone into PPEs right now, we wouldn't be having this opportunity to tell the story of how equity helped the local sector. There's a lot more that we can do locally. Let's explore and let's see what we can do.
Equity, bega kwa bega.
Wajuao walisema kwamba jina jema hung'aa hata gizani.
Na vilevile wakasema bora ni bora iliyoboreshwa, na habari za TV47 zinazidi kuimarika kila kuchapo.
Tunasanzuka na kutamba ili kuhakikisha tunaweka bayana taarifa kemkem zenye usawa na mantiki.
Katika mida ya alasiri kabla ya jua kutua, kutoka kaunti 001 na kupeperushia shina la upeo.
Na inapowadia saa 1 kamili,
nachukua usukani kukufahamisha
na kukupeperushia taarifa ipasavyo.
Tutakueleza ni kipi kilichojiri na wahusika ni wepi.
Ungana nasi kila siku ya wiki tukujuze, kwani usilolijua ni kama usiku wa giza.
If we had not gone into PPEs right now, we wouldn't be having this opportunity to tell the story of how equity helped the local sector. There's a lot more that we can do locally. Let's explore and let's see what we can do.
Equity, bega kwa bega.
Wajuao walisema kwamba jina jema hung'aa hata gizani.
Na vilevile wakasema bora ni bora iliyoboreshwa, na habari za TV47 zinazidi kuimarika kila kuchapo.
Tunasanzuka na kutamba ili kuhakikisha tunaweka bayana taarifa kemkem zenye usawa na mantiki.
Katika mida ya alasiri kabla ya jua kutua, kutoka kaunti 001 na kupeperushia shina la upeo.
Na inapowadia saa 1 kamili,
nachukua usukani kukufahamisha
na
Welcome back. You're watching your channel of choice, the county's television, where your voice matters. Keep talking to us. The hashtag to use is TV47 News. And let's get to more news, where 41-year-old Millicent Kithinji, who hosted 44 teenagers at her house in Nairobi's Mountain View estate 2 weeks ago, is set to be detained at Kabete police station until Thursday this week, when she will take plea. This comes after the prosecution was denied an additional 5 days to conclude investigations. Nanok Lorraine reports.
After she was detained at the Kabete police station for the last 1 week while investigations were ongoing, Millicent Kithinji, who allegedly hosted 44 teens in her Mountain View's house, is set to remain in custody until 3rd December. She is expected to take plea into her child trafficking case and causing 44 children to be exposed to sexual abuse and exploitation, including prostitution and pornography, in her premises in Nairobi's Mountain View estate.
I see no harm in the suspects being presented before the plea-taking court and the pending issues be tackled as pre-trial issues In that regard, the suspects will be presented before the plea court on the 3rd of December 2020. They will remain in custody until then.
The Respondents' Council opposed the application by the prosecution to have an additional 5 days to conclude investigations, stating that the police had ample time to investigate the matter. As a result, Magistrate Catherine Modhoni said the court has a role of putting a sense of balance to the interests of both parties.
It is my opinion that due to the complexity involved, the investigations may not be concluded in the 5 days requested anyhow. The role of the court is to balance the interests of the state with those of the respondents.
Efforts to secure additional days to conclude investigations were unsuccessful, and therefore suspects will be detained and their fate moving forward will be determined on 3rd December 2020. Nanok Lauren, TV47 from the Milimani Law Courts, Nairobi.
Elsewhere, the National Assembly has adopted the House's Health Committee report compelling KEMSA to distribute the remaining PPEs within 14 days. Earlier today, Senate's Health Committee had inspected the authority's warehouse in Nairobi's Embakasi. Josh Onsare has the details.
Members of Parliament approved the report by the House Health Committee directing the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority KEMSA to release all the PPEs in their warehouses. The committee issued a 14 days ultimatum to the Health Ministry to review the status of the PPEs, which should be distributed in all public hospitals.
That within 14 days of the House adopting this report, the Ministry of Health reviews the status of the personal protective equipments, PPEs, held by Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, KEMSA, with a view to distributing the same to all public hospitals.
The Sabina Wanjiru-led committee has also recommended that no Kenyan should be charged with the cost of the PPEs while undergoing treatment.
All public hospitals should not charge any Kenyan citizen admitted in their facilities due to COVID-19, the cost of personal protective equipment used while undergoing treatment.
Further, within 7 days of the adoption of the report, the National Treasury and the Ministry of Health have been compelled to remit 500 million Kenya shillings to the National Health Fund, NHIF, for health workers' live medical cover.
Within 7 days of adoption of this report, the National Treasury and the Ministry of Health remits Kenya shillings 500 million to the National Hospital Insurance Fund, NHIF, as approved by the National Assembly in the Supplementary Appropriations Act No. 2 of 2020 for the provision of group life insurance cover by National Hospital Insurance Fund scheme. That includes COVID-19 cover for all medical staff working in all counties and the national referral hospitals.
Senate's Health Committee did a spot check at KEMSA warehouse in Embakasi on Tuesday and established that PPEs worth 2.9 billion shillings have not been sold.
But for items which cost was around 2.9 billion, they have been told by EACC to keep it aside, so they are not touching those ones until EACC clears with them.
Josh Onsare, TV47, Nairobi.
Moving on, the Technical and Vocational Education Training and Curriculum Development Assessment and Certificate Council have assessed more than 200 trainees from different institutions. These as ladies continue to embrace technical courses and some outdoing men both in numbers and their abilities. Joan Maina reports.
Hands-on skills are mostly stereotyped and associated with men, but at St. Kizito Vocational and Training Center in Githurai, the situation is different. Most of the trainees who are assessed today by TVET undertaking courses such as manual metal arc welding, lathe machine operations, and simple automation control inspection were ladies, as Jen Joki, a 20-year-old trainee, explains what drew her to learning simple automation control inspection course.
Okay, my father personally is an electrician, so when we finished school, we used to
share his knowledge, his knowledge of electrical with me. When there is something broken, something is not functioning well in the house, he used to call me and tell me, Jane, I want you to learn this and that, this and that.
Ann Mutindi, a trainee undertaking manual metal arc welding, has urged youth to embrace courses that will equip them with skills.
And also be self-employment, as in unaweza employ. So with that, hautashinda maybe unasumbuana na mtu. Yeah, you can just decide I'll do this alone and you do it.
The trainees participate in workshops and get hands-on experience leading courses.
Generally, competency-based assessment, we assess trainees against the national occupational standards, and we involve TVET trainers together with industry experts. And you have seen that in St. Kizito, we have industry experts and we have TVET trainers who are conducting the assessment. It is going on well, and we would like TVET institutions to embrace the SIMBET courses, and they should know and also encourage the youth that this is the way to go, because there are so many opportunities. In SIMBET, it is very flexible.
Then this year again we have another group of around 23 students who are being tested. As you have seen, the exams, the assessment is going on. So I think the program has been, for us as a school, we find this is what we have been looking for. Because before we had what you call the dual training, that was a little bit borrowed from Europe. We have been doing it with the mechanics, the department. So now having the competent base that is being implemented by CDAC and TVET, we feel that is something that the school has been looking forward, because we had a concern from the industry that students are trained, but they are not so competent on what they are doing.
The new competency-based curriculum equips trainees on hands-on skills that will enable them employ themselves and create job opportunities, eradicating employment reliance. Joanne Minor, TV47.
Well, still on the girl child, but in Rwanda, while some employers may be wary of hiring young women for fear that they will be away from work during maternity leave, AC Group, a Rwandan technology company, is offering their employees 5 months paid maternity leave. Diana Iriza reports from Kigali, Rwanda.
A Rwandan technology company involved in smart transport solutions has extended paid maternity leave to 5 months from the ordinary recommended 3 months. Talking to TV47, AC Group Human Resource Manager Nicola Magera says that such benefits can supplement the efficiency of workplace policies and at the same time allow workers to reconcile work and family life.
AC Group is a people-centered organization, and we want to be sure that we are giving our employees all the benefits they deserve for the fantastic work that they do for our organization. Noticing the employees suffering per se, but just wanting to make sure that we are actually giving mothers enough time to spend with their newborns before returning to work, so that when they return to work they can be more productive and give us their best.
For a company to establish such a policy, Magera highlights that it takes willingness and being intentional to create a culture that is best for an organization and its people. We spoke to some of the employees and asked them to share with us their 5 months maternity leave experience.
The 5 months leave was very interesting because it was my first time of being a mom. So the journey was very incredible and transformative. I had to adapt myself to becoming a new mom, and what was good in the 5 months is I really benefited to 6 months of exclusive breastfeeding, having to both work and take care of my child. It was very interesting to be able to have my time with her and have what a mom can have.
I think when the baby has 3 months and you have to leave, it's you are stressed because you are thinking about your baby. You can't work properly because you are thinking, when am I going to see the baby? But when you know, at least you have concluded the 5 months, so at least the baby is a little bit grown up, so you can have peace when you're at work. I would encourage other companies to do the same, or even more, to 6 months or whatever. It's good and it's beneficial to mothers and even the fathers as well, because when they know their mothers are at home with babies, they even work well.
Studies across the world show that family leave policies can help companies retain women, a key aspect for the tech industry, which has been said to have challenges with gender diversity. Rwandan employers have been constantly urged to look into ways to improve workplace welfare, including aspects such as maternity leave.
Thank you, our Kigali-based correspondent Diana Iriza, for that report. Time for us to get to the world of sports. Let's bring in sportsman Dennis Otieno. Dennis, what do you have for us tonight?
Well, Abubakar, a lot is lined up for you in the world of sports, ranging from the UEFA Champions League matches like Real Madrid against Shakhtar Donetsk, as well as Bayern Munich against Atletico Madrid. Also, locally, we have Mathare United getting a major financial boost from a giant gaming firm, 555bet, worth 20 million shillings. This and more stories coming in just a bit. A very warm welcome to Primetime Sports. My name is Dennis Otieno and we shall start off with local news. Now, Premier League club Mathare United has landed a sponsorship deal with gaming giant 555bet just a month after parting ways with the previous sponsor. The 20 million shillings short sponsorship deal will cover the 2020-2021 season with the possibility of extension. Julius Juma attended the ceremony here in Nairobi and now reports.
That's the unveiling of the sponsorship for Mathare United. 20 million Kenya shillings.
The financial crunch tormenting FKF Premier League side Mathare United has been eased after the club landed a 20 million shillings sponsorship deal from betting firm 555bet. According to 555bet Paolo Abenavole, the year-long shirt sponsorship deal has an option of a further extension upon expiry.
What are the factors that are going to take it to an extension? First of all, of course, we want to be associated with a successful team. So if I sponsor a football team, I want that team to perform. We also have a performance-based reward for the players and the club at all in terms of if they perform and they get to the first five or even they win the league, there will be of course a performance bonus to them.
The club, which is just a month old after parting ways with the previous sponsor, has loaded the sponsorship. Club chairman Bob Bundro hitting at a possible title triumph this season.
Through you, we intend this year to make an awful lot of other people happy. And so I promise that your investment in this team and in these players will reap you dividends in the months and years ahead.
Head coach Salim Ali is confident of a fruitful campaign, injecting much of his energy into the well-being of his players.
Tunacheza bado na bado kuna hiyo shida, bado kuna virusi zinaongezeka. Kitu muhimu ni tukianza kucheza na tujiprotect sisi kama ma players na ma officials, then at the end of the day team ikishakuwa strong na tujaribu catch up na hiyo program yetu, then I think we'll have a good season this season.
The Slum Boys, as they are fondly known, were set to play Ulinzi Stars in the season opener that is however still in limbo following a stalemate between the club and Football Kenya Federation over the federation's deal with the Chinese broadcaster Star Times.
To the team participating in the Kenya Premier League.
20 million shillings a year for Mathare United, a record sponsorship by the 3-month-old gaming giant of 555bet. The time is not only ripe to take on the big fish at the deep end, but also to grow the Kenyan sport. And even as the club seeks Premier League glory for the first time since 2008, there is already some glory in their bank accounts. Reporting for TV47 Sports, I'm Julius Juma.
Well, thank you, Julius Juma, for that comprehensive report. Now, the National Super League kickoff has been postponed for another time due to logistical issues after the league was halted for 8 months due to the spread of coronavirus. The chairman of the league's governing council, Johnson Sakwa, however, insists the management is duly ready for the resumption of the league despite the challenges caused by COVID-19. The NSL season was poised to resume on December 5th, but will now have to wait a week longer until December 12th.
Now you see the issue of COVID. It's even more worse. So they would have requested. So we should look for this league to look as a serious league.
We are also circular about kickoff.
As you are well aware that the many companies have been struggling, so of course that's been raised with our clubs, and we have been discussing about how we make this league simple. So I would not say that we are 100% ready as far as support is required, but in terms of the value of the league, yes, we are prepared. That we are prepared to go on despite the challenges with the support of the federation and what it has done so far. We have discussed even sponsorships on how there can be a possibility to increase. So this is coming in handy at this particular time. So we are taking the bull by its horns despite the challenges affecting everybody, whether it's business or sport. We are willing to take the game forward.
Now, Kenya Premier League champions Gor Mahia have received a financial boost to the tune of 3 million shillings from Football Kenya Federation to cater for their preparations for the continental matches. Club Secretary General Sam Ochola revealed that a huge chunk of the money will be channeled towards settling players' salary arrears. Financial crunches have continued to ravage Kogalo to the extent that the players donned Harambee Stars tracksuits for their journey away to Rwanda's APR in the first leg of the CAF Champions League group